need exercise. And
I just realized we hadn't been recording all this time.
Well, blast it. I like how you decide to record as soon as the 2-year-old gets downstairs.
I know, that's how life works.
I was just talking about all the things that people come to the mediation table needing, you know, financial management, mental health therapy, you know, coaching, life coaching, exorcisms, and, you know, exorcisms, you know. And even if you are a financial planner, even if you are, you know, a licensed therapist, you know, even if you are a trained life coach, even if you are a priest that has been ordained and trained in how to do exorcisms, it's not helpful to bring that to the table, right?
Right.
It confuses people about the service that we provide.
Right.
And people who, you know, we are at this interesting place in the field of mediation where people are interested in the service. There's a lot of people that are interested in the service, and they are not educated on what mediation can actually do.
Right.
So until we're at, like, I know that when I go to the dentist, right, if I go to the dentist and they start checking my heart rate, I know that the dentist is doing the right thing.
That is not your job, ma'am.
Hold on, right? Hold on. So Shaquandra, don't worry about shushing the baby. They know there's a baby in the house. All right. But when people come to the mediation table and mediators are giving advice, participants don't necessarily know that that's not what my mediator is supposed to be doing, you know?
Right.
And this field will grow immeasurably once participants are able to really evaluate, regardless of the results, once participants are able to evaluate us based on what the true definition of mediation is.
Yeah.
Because I hear, you know, mostly right now people are like, if they got results that they liked, you know, they're like, oh, that was a good mediator, you know?
Right.
But really what we want to be measuring by is, did we follow the rules of mediation? All right. Did we get to the table? Did we make space, create space for them to talk? And did we, you know, allow them to bring forth their ideas without our judgment?
Yeah. Two things that you said, something that you said brought up two things for me too. One also is when participants first talk to someone at the Community Mediation Center and they go through that intake conversation and they are told that mediators are going to be non-judgmental, right? And they're not going to take sides and they're not going to lead. As you're coming in, turn your camera off for us, please. They were already told that it's going to be a non-judgmental space. The mediators aren't going to take sides. They're not going to tell people what to do. And so participants are used to going to service providers in life and being told that the service is going to be one thing. And then when they get the service, they get something totally different, right? And we don't want to be a part of that culture. We want to, whatever people were told in the intake conversation, when they explained when they heard what mediation was, that's what they should see mediators doing. Even when they're trying to make mediators do something else, like, hey, you know, what you think I should do about that? Like, yeah, we're not telling you what we think you should do about it. So that's one thing, is like, there's enough of people being, people often feel betrayed by services, by grassroots services a lot of times, right? Because they're told they're going to get one kind of service, but when it gets delivered, it's something else. That's one thing. But then also, when you said, like, when people get results that they like, then they think the mediators were good. So a big part of our role as mediators is to uplift this fact that people really get to make their own decisions. So you get the results as a participant that you put in, because all of the results are supposed to come from you. So if there's anything that the mediator said or did that made the results go in a certain direction, participants don't get to learn the power of, I push through my own muck and mire, the difficult parts of the conversation. I said the hard stuff out loud to this person. I heard them say stuff that I normally would have wanted to punch them in the face for, and I didn't, like, and somehow we both felt understood. And somehow by the end of all of that, we actually made decisions that are realistic to me, that I can follow through with, that I trust, that I really believe are going to work in my life. And so when they get results that they like and results that only they came up with, that's very different than getting results that they like because the mediators guided the situation, because that's all about the mediator's power. And the mediators are not the people who have to live those results out.
Right.
So whatever good results are, they better be results that the participants come up with, because I can give you a bunch of brilliant ideas. I'm not going to be the one to do it for you.
Right. And I've been having this experience since the good people that I work with at Community Mediation Maryland have been forcing me, and you could tell I was forced because my nail is still in the sidewalk when they drag me to like conferences and stuff. I've been around people who call themselves mediators, who are not only making suggestions and doing a manipulative process, but are, as a result of that, I'll say as a result of that, muddying the name of mediation and mediators. And I'm at times, when I'm really salty about it, I'll say I don't even call myself a mediator anymore, and I describe myself as a collaborative personal trainer. And when I'm talking about myself as a collaborative personal trainer, never in the history of ever has a good personal trainer said to one of their clients, "Hey, you've been working hard today. I know you're tired. So I'm going to run this last mile for you. Or, hey, I know it's been a rough week for you. So I'm going to lift these last couple of weights. I'm going to do these last weight reps for you, because that would undermine the whole purpose of folks doing the workout. And so when you're mediating and you break neutrality by giving suggestions, steering people, doing a manipulative process and steering people in a different direction. Or one of my other, this is my daughter, Shaquandra. Hi, Shaquandra. By manipulating people and trying to steer them in a particular path. And my other, what was I saying? My other pet peeve that people do at the table, suggestions, manipulation. What's the other one, Erica? I was just about
suggestion questions is the one that burns me to know, because people are like, I was just asking a question, but your question had a suggestion built in it. Like, have you ever thought about, and then what you think people should do? That's called a suggestion.
Yeah. Right. That when you're doing that, it's akin to running that last mile for them, or doing those last weight reps for them, right? It does to build their stamina. And so, and a lot of times mediators get really anxious about, okay, but what about their agreement? What about the decisions that they make? And this is why I like to call myself a personal trainer for collaboration, because when I get stuck on and when I'm obsessing about the agreement, as opposed to maintaining my neutrality, then I miss what is happening, right?
Yeah.
Let me go back to my metaphor of personal trainer. So when your personal trainers, if I go to a personal trainer, the first thing they're going to ask me are, what are your goals, right? And I'm going to give them a gorgeous list of goals. I'm like, I want a 6-pack, right? I want Angela Bassett arms.
Yes.
Well, no, I want Michelle Obama arms and Angela Bassett back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want those.
I want Megan Thee Stallion knees, so however she's able to like bounce and stay down and still get back up, and nothing breaks. I want that whole Megan.
I want Mickey Minaj thighs. I want red velvet rope Janet Jackson abs. You know what I'm saying? I want That's what I'm gonna tell them.
I
And
want
that
Cardi
personal trainer
B. I'm not sure what it is. It might be a Cardi B butt. That might be what I want. But I need to have a Cardi B something.
Right. And so that personal trainer will look me dead in my eye and say, okay, here's your meal plan, and here's your workout, right? And I'm gonna meet you here at the gym tomorrow at 8:00. And I'm gonna be there at 7:45, looking at them like they late when they arrive at 8:00, I got a lot of energy and excitement about it on the front end. But as time passes, what I'm saying, that whole first week, I'm there early, I'm working out, I'm doing the meal plan and everything, and I do lose weight. I do lose weight, right? And I see but mostly because I can't lift the fork to my mouth anymore because the lactic acid has seeped into my muscles and they're stiff.
Yeah.
And that next week, I'm at the gym late the first day. I didn't get there at 8:00. I got there at 8:15. The next day I needed to reschedule. And then I just.
Have you been talking to the personal trainers that I've had in the past?
Right. No, because our mediation participants do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's hard work, because we're asking the personal trainer at Jim's asking us to do hard work, and us personal trainers at the mediation table, we're asking people to do hard work.
Yeah.
And so if I get obsessed by, oh my goodness, they are not this whole dime piece right now, right? They didn't make the decisions they said they wanted to make about communication, transportation, clothing, what are the other things people make decisions about at mediation? The schedule, all that other stuff. They haven't made those decisions yet. I missed that they are sitting at the table for 2 hours at a time, talking to each other, calling each other the name that's on their driver's license.
Right, instead of the ones they normally use that are
right.
3 to 5 letters.
I had a roommate for like a couple of years, and she always called her ex-husband Dickhead, and I thought that was on his name.
It was his birth certificate.
I thought that was his name. Dick, middle name Head, last name
whatever, Smith.
And so one day she said his name. She's like, because when John would, and I was like, who is John? She's like, my ex-husband. I was like, I thought it was Dick. And so those folks come to the mediation table and they are talking for 2 hours. Before they came to the mediation table, they weren't talking for months.
Right.
And the last couple of times they talk, they use inside voices, right? And if I get obsessed about the agreement, if I break my neutrality and decide that the agreement is the most important thing for them.
Yeah.
And when they have been prioritizing being able to come to the table and have a conversation using inside voices, using each other's names, I missed, right, what was really important to them and the growth and development they made. Just like if my personal trainer at the gym is just obsessed about my abs and, biceps and misses that now I can run 2 miles without looking like I'm about to have a heart attack and a stroke at the same time.
Right.
And that, and that my BMI is down and that my energy level is up, right? Then they undermine the whole work that I have been doing.
Yeah.
Right? And so obsessing about the agreement and the decisions that they're going to be made at the expense of their collaborative development undermines the mediation process and breaks neutrality.
Yeah. And it's another thing that we go hard about is when we say out loud to mediators that the mediation is not an agreement focused process. Every time we say it, like I hear mediators' brains like break in half. Like, what do you mean it's not an agreement focused process? And so what we mean is that, like Tracee is saying, right, you don't come to the table looking for how can we get to agreement. Like, agreement is one of the things that if people choose to, they can absolutely get there. And that might leaving with a written agreement might not actually be the most valuable thing that people get out of the process. And if mediators' goal is people have to get an agreement, then it means you're not listening to things people are saying, and you're filtering everything that's happening at the table through how is this going to get them to an agreement. And so you are missing reflections you should be doing, open-ended questions you should be asking, because your brain is now prioritizing, oh, that has nothing to do with them getting to an agreement though. Well, that might get them away from an agreement. And keeping in mind that going through a conflict, like really going through it, it looks like hills and valleys. And when you're focused on getting an agreement, you just want to see all hills and plateaus and hills and plateaus, right. And that's all you want to see. And so when the conversation starts going into a valley, the mediator starts to panic, because it looks like, no, they're getting away from headed to an agreement right now. And when mediators start to panic, now your brain as the mediator goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode yourself. You're putting panic and anxiety energy at the mediation table, and your brain can't think straight of what am I hearing? How can I be present? What's the reflection I need to do? What's the open-ended question? What strategy? What could I be saying to my co-mediator out loud right now? Like, you can't think of any of that stuff when you are panicking because the mediation isn't going on the path toward agreement that you think it should be going on. And so when you and so it's really important that you come with they can use this process to get out of it whatever they want. And an agreement might be at the end of that, and it might not be at the end of that. And it doesn't mean you were any less successful, quote unquote, as a mediator. And I think, and I think that it makes people very uncomfortable, because we do go so hard about being non-judgmental. We are not in the, oh, but if participants ask you, then you can give their advice. We're not in that camp. No. But it's their process if they want you to. So let me clear this up right now. Every time you say the mediation is the participant's process, you a lie. It is not their process. Did they go through basic mediation training? I don't think so.
I mean, I use mediation a lot, but that's not the point.
Right. That's not the point, right? They may be. If you're Tracee, yes, you've been through mediation training and you take all your conflicts to mediation. But when you're a participant, it's not your process, it's your conflict. And so just like mediators, we're not trying to interfere and tell people how to manage their conflict. We're not saying you can't interrupt each other, you can't yell, you can't cuss, you have to talk equal amounts of time. We're not saying any of that. They can have the conflict the way they have it, and they're running their conflict through this process. Guess whose process it is? The mediators. It's the mediators' process.
Right.
You have ethical standards attached to that process.
Right.
They don't. They can act as unethically as they want. And they don't have to walk in integrity or any of it while they're in their conflict. Just like you don't when you in your conflict. Because you just want to be right and you just want to win. You ain't think about how can I manage this conflict with integrity or ethics. No, right? But as a mediator, we do have ethical standards. And so if a participant is asking us to do something that we know is outside of our role, it's our job to maintain the integrity of the process, not to then get lazy and do the easier thing to say, oh, well, it's the participants' process. If they wanted me to do it, then let me just sneak real quick while Tracee and Ericka not looking and do it. It don't matter if we look at all your ancestors watching.
But here's the other piece. So if we trained you, if Ericka and I trained you, and you step out of process and you think we're not gonna find out, we always find out.
We find out and we disown.
We're not looking. I promise you. Like we got a lot of stuff to handle. We got a lot of stuff to do.
We do. We find out and we disown you and blame you on the other trainer. So if somebody comes and tells me something, I'll be like, oh yeah, Tracee trained that person. Clearly, because
quickly.
Nobody I trained would ever
do that. And like, oh yeah, that sounds like somebody. That sounds like one of Ericka's people. So let's break it down, Ericka. Like what some of the neutrality breaking things that people are liable to do. And I'm checking chat as we go along. So you know,
Okay.
so let me check.
There's or look at that, all the people that's commenting on Facebook.
Oh, sweet. So here, let me check something Ericka told me in chat. She said if I look at the camera like I'm doing right now, which I do not like doing because there's this little white light in there, and it feels like it's piercing through my right eye. It looks like I'm talking.
But you're looking directly at us right now.
But when I'm looking, like, so Erica's talking, and because I was raised in the Deep South, when people are talking, my predilection is to look directly at them. So this is me looking at Erica right now, and Erica's telling me it doesn't look like I'm looking at her. It looks like looks like I look at. So when I look here, I'm looking at the camera again. That's what that looks right.
That's right.
I don't like that.
I know, but welcome to the new world of technology, where you can't look people right in their eyes. You have to look at a little button on the screen right there in order for people to think that you are looking at them. Sorry.
Yeah.
See, right now I'm not looking at you. You are over here, actually, but I gotta look right there in order for you to think I'm looking at you. It sucks. See, that time
what happens when I do that to that little light? See, when I cover that little light, it
so
does.
now look at the camera. Yeah, now it still looks like you're looking at us. Okay. We don't see a difference.
Okay, I need to cover that little light then. I'm gonna find something around here to cover the little light.
Oh, you got the fancy kind of computer. It gives you a light and everything.
I think I have the same Dell that you have.
I don't have a Dell.
Oh, okay.
I got somebody I never heard of before. Okay. Lenovo or something. I got the everything emptied out, all the Home Depots, but Office Depot. I got whatever was left.
I had my last computer was a Lenovo.
Yeah, I never heard of this in my life. I like it though. It gets the job done. So we have questions in the chat. Okay, I know I'm asking you. Let me go look. Oh no, let's see. It's a lot of amening in the chat, I think. Oh, somebody's laughing at us. Leslie's laughing at us. Hey, Leslie. So all right, let's break it down. So giving suggestions is not neutral. All right. It's just not giving suggestions, giving suggestions, giving your opinions, giving solutions, giving is not a giving act immediately. Telling one participant what you think the other person is trying to say, not neutral. Not neutral. Well, let's focus on the solution, suggestion, advice section. Okay. And why that's not neutral. All right. Because it's wrong. There's a few problems with it. One, you could just break neutrality in. Your solution might be the same solution another participant had, right? And so you're showing bias with that. Right. Two, that's an over investment into their conflict, right? Right. You need to bring yourself out. So like for me, it's so funny watching you not look at the camera while you're talking. I'm trying not. Maybe I just need to, let's see. Let me try not looking at myself. Yeah, because your eyes go back and forth. Oh, that's cute. Let me try. You are pretty today with you got your highlights and your shadow and your. I figured if it was my first time on that I should act like I was raised right and put on something. I can't figure this out right now. All right. I'll figure I'm gonna look at the screen. There you go. So suggestions are also they just generally break neutrality because this is their work to do. All right. This is their work. And when you are giving solutions, advice, suggestions, it's about you. It really is about you. It's about calming your anxieties, about sitting with people in the midst of conflict when it's unresolved, all right? And so when you make it about you, you're breaking neutrality, all right? So don't make it about you. And if you, because I know I've been in that place where I'm just like, oh, if only
they just had this little bitty piece of advice, this little piece of information that I have. If I just shared that with them, it will resolve the conflict. And I'm here to tell you, if you hadn't noticed this before already, I'm here to tell you, never in the history of ever has a fact resolved a conflict. It just does not. Facts do not resolve conflict. If you don't believe me, test it. You can test it.
Facebook is a perfect test. Over and over again, somebody will be like, actually, that's not true. Here's a link to the scientific proof and research.
Right.
And people be like, fuck that research. You can make research stand out however you want. And it doesn't matter. People don't care how much proof of facts that you have. They believe something.
You know, think about every argument that you had with your romantic somebodies, you know, and, you know, it's like, oh, they just misunderstand this little piece of thing. I'll tell them this little piece of information and they'll understand better, right? And then you share that piece of information. Did your conflict end? Or did y'all stop fighting? Did they go, oh, now I understand, and y'all stop fighting? No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. So just keep it for yourself. Keep it for yourself. And there's lots of places that people can go to get advice and suggestions and information. There's lots of places. We are live streaming on one of those places right now. You know what I'm saying? I have lots of friends that I can call up and tell them what's going on in the conflict in my life. And they are going to give me some great and some bad advice, right? on how to deal with it. So Ericka is good for good advice around it, you know, but she'll listen first. She will listen first. So just don't do that at the mediation table, because, and I know there are some mediators out there that are like, well, I have experience with this that will help people. Then you need to become a mentor. All right. You're wanting to be a mentor. That's different from being a mediator. All right. So decide if you can come to the table and you can sit with people in the midst of conflict and prioritize them and quell and navigate and do whatever you got to do, you know, corset your need to give advice and or whatever your response is to being with people in the midst of active conflict, to prioritize them. All right.
Yeah. You know, that also made me think about all the empath and psychic mediators who we can feel.
I sense that.
I can feel it. I can feel it. If I just say this one thing, this is what they need to hear. I can feel it in my bones. All the spirit world is telling me, right? And sometimes that might be true. Mm-hmm. And so, again, it's not your role as a mediator to go into what advice you have psychically or spiritually or emotionally that you can feel. And so what I tell people to do with that energy, because that's, in all honesty, is one of my battles as well, right? I feel everything that everybody else around me is going through. Sometimes I realize I'm crying and they not my tears. I realize I'm crying for somebody else who's stuffing their pain in the room, maybe, right? And not at the table, but other places, right? So I get it. And so let's take first, like, just your regular life. You have an experience that's similar to something you hear people going through at the table, and you are like, oh my goodness, I went through the same thing. I know exactly what they're going through, and I got something to say about it that I think might be helpful. Use that energy, that experience, to help you tap into the intensity of the feeling words you should be reflecting right now. Mm-hmm. Right? Because maybe because you went through it, you may have access to feeling words that your co-mediator is like, I don't know what to call that.
Yeah.
But because you went through it, you like, oh, that's horrified. You know, like, you know what the feeling is because you've been there, right? Or you have language for those values because you've been there. So we're not saying discount everything you've ever gone through, and no way is it ever going to be helpful. You are a human being, and you are bringing your humanness to the table. You're just using it with your mediator cap on. And so normally when you've gone through something and somebody tells you about it, you say, oh, when I went through that, here's what I did. right? Now to go, oh, I've been through that. What feelings am I hearing this person express? What value do I recognize, right?
Right.
Let's say you've never been through it, but you have the, you're an empath, you feel all of the vibrations from the whole universe. Let me tell you something about spirit, right? Don't limit spirit by saying, oh, spirit is telling me to give this advice. Spirit knows your role as a mediator. Spirit wants you to be a good mediator. Spirit is not telling you to give advice. If spirit is helping you see something that somebody is going through, you can also ask spirit, okay, so what can I do with that information that'll help me stay in my role as a mediator? Spirit will also guide you to the right reflection and the right open-ended questions. So when you were like, but spirit was telling me to say it. No. Your ego was telling you to say it because you felt it so strongly. You felt like, oh, but I gotta say it. Don't blame that on spirit. Spirit don't want that glory.
Right.
No, you could have asked spirit, oh, wow, thank you for showing me what people are going through. Now guide me in how to stay in my role as a mediator and still use what I'm feeling coming from the universe right now. There's no limit on what spirit is able to give you to do in a moment or give you to say in a moment. And so even that's the thing you're falling back on. Oh, but I'm so spiritually inclined. Me too. And I'm telling you, spirit wants you to be a great mediator.
Yeah. And just so you know, like Ericka is very deeply spiritual, and you don't have to be deeply spiritual to be a mediator. I'm very shallow. I'm very with that. And, so mediators can exist on the spectrum of depth. Okay.
Yes.
I want to.
I'm spiritual, and I'm also like one of the most judgmental people I know. Like that's what I
And
realized.
That's true too.
When people are like, "Oh, why are you such a good mediator?" I'm like, because I'm very judgmental, and so going through mediation training helped me notice the difference between all of my opinions that come up and, oh, that's not what the person actually said just now. So because I'm so judgmental, I use it to notice and separate out my judgments from what people actually said.
Right.
Yeah.
Ericka, it is like 1:45 already. So
okay. Questions? We want to take people's questions now.
Yes, I do want to. I see something Brad said that inspired. Brad Smith says, how do you respond as a mediator when the parties involved only reason for being at the mediation is to be right? Or do you find that to be the main reason some to mediation, right? So
yes, to part B.
Right. I think that this is me looking at the camera again. So
good job.
Bad. I think that whatever people's motivations for coming to the mediation table. Yeah, when I originally came to the mediation table, as my introduction to mediation was as a participant. And I was looking for validation from the mediator that I was correct, that I was right, Yeah. And I think that if you invest time in assessing that as a participant, your neutrality is at risk.
Yeah.
Your neutrality is at risk. So people have a lot of people for reasons for coming to the table, and for us to decide which ones are good and valid reasons for them being at the table and which ones are not is a break in our neutrality, right? And so it may seem to us that people came to the mediation table just to be right, just to be judgmental, just to be abusive, just to, what have you. And we are saying that when we come to the mediation table, whatever their reasons are, we are not going to judge that.
That's right. Yeah. And so so one of my biggest, you saw me like, I had to hold all myself in while Tracee was talking, because one of my biggest pet peeves in the field of alternative dispute resolution is when I hear practitioners who are mediators say, oh, people did not come to mediation in good faith. So let me get this straight. So you signed up to sit in the middle of people's conflicts, and then you judge people for acting like they were in conflict?
Right.
Like you are mad because they were trying to manipulate and they were trying to be right, and they wanted the other person to just see their side, and they, left out certain words to make things sound a certain way, or they, like, whatever it is you think they were doing that wasn't mediating in good faith. You signed up for conflict. Like, you didn't sign up for,
right.
like, people didn't say, oh, I'm signing up for a process where I'm going to come and listen deeply and be my highest version of myself. And that's not what people signed up for. They were like, I'm going to go show the mediators that bitch is crazy. And I'm the same one. And you know what I mean? Like, or maybe they came with, like, whatever you think good reasons are, but absolutely, just even that mindset as a mediator that people should be mediating in good faith means you have determined what good means.
Right.
And that determination of good comes from your experiences and things that you call good. What conflict looks like where I come from, when I know you are having a conflict in good faith with me, is when you call me and you tell me everything you saying to other people about me. You calling me all the names, you calling me to other people, you interrupting me, you cussing at me. I'm like, oh, they having this conversation in good faith because you're being completely honest with me, right? And so there are people that I do that with, and when there are people that I accept, this person doesn't care about building a relationship with me, so that's not what they do with me. I'm fine with that. But if I sign up to a mediation, I know, oh, these people, this should be a safe space. Whatever they come here with, whether they come in what I think is good faith, if they're being honest, if they're lying, if they're being transparent, or if they're hiding, this is a safe space for them to do all of that, because I'm not going to judge it. I'm going to work on understanding it. And by me working on understanding it, as they feel safer, if they want to go deeper into how they really feel and what they really want to say, they will. But they're not going to do it while I'm already judging and analyzing whatever surface level they already brought to the table.
And so for mediators who have not trained with Ericka and me already, just to clarify, when in our model, inclusive mediation model, participants, for us, neutrality means they can come to the table. They can speak in outside voices. They can use colorful language, i.e. curse words, all the conjugations of fuck and motherfucker. They can, and we do not stop people from doing that.
And they can interrupt one another.
And they can interrupt one another. They can interrupt us.
Right.
And they can talk at the same time. And so mediators in the inclusive mediation model are, part of our training, part of our development is listening to multiple people talk at the same time, Did you see Roz's question in the chat? Roz had a good question.
A bit of yes, because so I think this was Roz responding.
Can you read it out loud for our Facebook friends? I don't know.
Yes, so I think this was Roz asking a question related to what I was saying about if you've been through an experience, it may give you more access to feeling and value words that you hear. And so Roz said a bit of a tricky area because your feelings may not mirror theirs. So would you still need to approach naming their feelings as an inquiry? So you are always, that's a really good question. So you are always making sure that whatever feeling you come up with that you're putting in your notes or that you're saying out loud, it should be a clean translation from something they said. It shouldn't be a feeling you should have to explain based on, well, when I went through that, this is how I felt, right? That's when you're going to be coloring their feelings with your experience, which is not the same thing as I recognize that feeling that they are expressing. And so I have access to that feeling word. And so your reflections are always an inquiry. Your distancing phrase is never evidently what you're saying is obviously what you're trying to say. Like, you're never saying that. You're always going, I think what I'm hearing you say. Is this what that's about for you? Like, it's always a question. You always have a check-in phrase at the end of your reflection, even if you know in your soul you nailed it At the end of it, you still go, is that right?
It's just
To give them
so,
an opportunity to say, kinda, yes, no. Were you about to say something, Tracee?
no, I was not. I'm trying to find a link to one of our training videos to put in the chat.
Yeah. Right. And Michelle was saying, don't play your own movie. That's right. Right. So what I'm not suggesting is that because you've been through it, you start playing your movie about what you went through and then insert it into their story right now. That's not what I'm saying, do. But I am saying, so for instance, if I just take a movie like The Wizard of Oz, for example, if you've never seen The Wizard of Oz, you don't understand The Wiz.
Right.
Right. But if you watch The Wiz after you've seen The Wizard of Oz, you get all the jokes and what they did and what they, they're using that and making it more, Black culture at that time, whatever, right? You understand it differently. So you have access to different words to talk about The Wiz if you've seen The Wizard of Oz already. Right. And vice versa. After you see The Wiz and you go back and look at The Wizard of Oz, you might see it a little bit different. Right. And you may have different words.
It looks name.
Right. And you might see it a little, you might have different words for it. And so we're not saying put in things that aren't there. We're saying that people may be saying things that you have access to the nuance of that feeling word, right? Because you might know, everybody maybe could hear that the person is hurt, right? Around something that they're saying. But there may be things they're saying that you also recognize is it's not just hurt, it's devastated, it's horrified, right? It's disgusted. That's not only hurt, right? So there may be nuances to things that people are saying that you actually can you go, oh, that equals this feeling word. I recognize that. Whereas your co-mediator may only have access to, oh, that's hurt and angry. And they don't have any other nuance or levels to give it because it's not something that they recognize.
It's good. That reminds me of another piece where neutrality needs to come in. Neutrality about your performance at the mediation table.
This is a great question. I'm sorry. Michelle put in a funny question. Go ahead.
What'd she say?
She said, if you haven't, what happens when you nail a reflection and they say, no, that's not it? Do you get to yell at the participants to tell them they are wrong?
Yeah, yes. In your mind, there's a back. So there's all kinds of degrees and phases of us, right? And so the one that gets to sit in the front at the table is our mediator selves, right? And the part that cusses people out, they get to be behind that person, right? And they get to, when the participants leave and you're doing, feedback, then they get to come up to the table like, that was a good ass reflection. And they know that was a good ass reflection. They know I nailed it. And instead they were like being hard about it. Then you can talk about that person. You can say no.
Yeah. So other things not to do though, that could be tempting, right? You do a reflection, you think you nailed it and they go, no. You sometimes are tempted to go, are you sure? Because I did hear you say, right? And then you repeat something they said that you think proves your reflection. So don't defend your reflection.
Defend reflections.
Right? If they say no, remember that words happen to people. Right? So there might be one of a few things or a combination of things happening. It might be that you did nail it and they see themselves clearly in it, but they don't like the picture. And so they go, nope. Because saying no is easier than saying, oh my goodness, you're right. I didn't realize that's how it was coming off though. Like maybe they aren't ready to do that. So they just jump right at no. And again, we're not judging them. We're not judging that, right? It may be you said words that didn't resonate with them. For whatever reason, you said, oh, it sounds like you're saying you feel annoyed, and they go, no, and then your co-mediator goes, is that about feeling irritated? And they go, yes, and you're like, what the hell? That's exactly the same. For whatever reason, maybe the words didn't fall on them the same way. But whatever, you aren't analyzing why did they just reject my reflection too, because keep in mind, if what you're doing is analyzing what people say, they are still talking. So while you're analyzing what they just now said, you're missing what they're saying right now.
Right.
So you want to quickly get back to the present moment. You
Mm-hmm.
did a reflection, you think you nailed it. They said no, stay in the present moment and go, oh, what did I miss? Or what was that about for you? And they are really happy to correct you. But what you don't want to do is like
If you
become.
do it with humility, they're really happy to correct
Yes.
you. Do it with humility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to come back for another one of these dialogues to understand how the long conversation Ericka and I had about the word humility.
It's a good one.
That's a very good one.
Maybe that'll be the next one. Mediator humility. What does it mean?
Yeah. So we are coming up on the hour, Ericka, and
Okay.
we schedule the next one right here live with everyone present. Now everybody knows how dangerous this is for me because everybody who knows me knows how dangerous this is for me because I get help with scheduling on my calendar.
Yeah, I don't know if this is good. I mean, I'll pencil it in until you get permission from your real calendar scheduler person.
Well, we identified some dates in advance. I'm looking for those dates right now. And also while we're scheduling, if there are other conversations you would like to see us have, please, hit us up on Facebook, hit us up in the chat so that it can inform them. Kawana is texting saying that she has a question because she know me like that. What's the question, Kawana? While I'm looking at the dates.
So yes, Roz, these are all going to be live on Facebook and they're going to be all uploaded to our YouTube channel.
Ericka, can we do next Friday at the same time?
No.
Without saying that we're doing this every Friday at this time.
Yeah, no, I can't do next Friday.
Okay. Let's look at, we're getting into, I think we're getting into
June.
Well, actually, what about the 28th, Thursday?
At the same time at 12? Is that what you're saying? Or at a different time? 12? Yeah, I can do 12. I can do 12.
Okay, all right, cool.
All right. And will it be about mediator humility?
We can
something else.
Let's hold that because that is, yeah, you know what? Let's just do it about mediator humility, and then the third one can be about, folks can post what they would like, what else they'd like us to talk about.
Okay,
that's really important. Juana's asking. Juana King from Keybridge asked, why not just ask them how they feel? So why don't we just ask people, how do you feel?
Because that's a quick way to get cussed out after they just got finished talking, and then you go, so how do you feel? That's a good way to get cussed out because it means you did not listen.
Right. And I think, I know for me, and it was a surprise for me when I did my training as a mediator, that my feeling vocabulary was so weak, so atrophied, because I grew up in a household where if you were housed and you were fed, you need to be happy about that. And that was kind of the range of emotional depth that we got. And so Ericka and I always tell this story about the first.
I have to let my dogs in, but I'm listening.
Okay. First time I co-mediated with Ericka, and one of the participants was just sobbing. I mean, she was just bawling. She was mediating. She was an adult woman mediating her mother, and she was just sobbing. And she was like, "Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mama. Mama, I'm sorry. Mama, please forgive me. I'm sorry." And she said that over and over again, and it looked like her face was melting. She was crying so hard. And I was sitting there thinking, I hope somebody know what that feeling is. I just drew a blank on what that feeling word was. And so Ericka comes in and says, sounds like you're feeling grief-stricken and remorseful. And I was like, I know both of those words. I know those words. And they were just not available to me at the time. And so another piece around neutrality is being able to reflect along the full range of feelings. A lot of mediators will stick people in the short range of feelings that they're allowed to have, and will stick with safe words like frustrated, upset, and concerned. And so if you come back after a person has, like their face is melted off and they are sobbing, and they snot bubbles are everywhere, and they got the string of saliva, they crying so much, and you come back and say, sounds like you're feeling upset. Yeah, your neutrality is going to seem off, because it's going to feel like to them that you've said their feeling is too big for this conversation. All right, so we want to be careful for that. And just asking them how they feel is also another job, that's in that therapeutic range, and people might feel more mentally healthy than they did when they came into the session, and a lot of people feel crazier too. So we don't want to take somebody else's job. We let them ask how people are feeling, and we'll just listen for the feelings that they give us. All right. Folks are falling off, so I think
and we're overtime.
So let's go. I hope to see everybody February 28th at 12 o'clock, and at this same channel, and we'll send out the link. And thank you so much. Anything else?
Yay. Bye, everybody.
All right.